Back in 2015, my brother Paul,
That's me,
and I started a podcast called To the Bat Polls about the Batman TV show starring Adam West.
my brother Tim,
That's me.
and I were crazy about the show watching reruns in the 70s, but hadn't watched it much since then until the show finally came out on home video in 2014.
Holy nostalgia.
Over the next decade, we went from vaguely remembering episodes we were watching for the first time since we were kids, to examining the history of the show, its fandom, how the show was written, its portrayal of women, and more.
We had guests including two women who appeared on the show, Donna Lauren
Joker's assistant in The Joker Goes to School,
and Susan Silo.
Riddler's Maul Mousy, and A Riddle a Day Keeps the Riddler Away.
Recently, we've moved to a Patreon-only show, Bat Bits, available for $2 a month at patreon.com/deconcomics.
Holy crowdfunding! But all 222 episodes of To the Bat Polls are still available for free at tothebatpolls.libsyn.com.
Or in any podcast app.
We hope you Bat fans will check them out.
Okay, now it's time to go polish the Batmobile.
Huh? What? Do you think we're the dynamic duo?
Shh, it's a conceit for the ad.
Oh, sorry.
Welcome to TV Tangents with your hosts, Natalie and Rebecca. Today, we're discussing the 90s teen drama Beverly Hills 90210.
Da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na, ch-ch. Da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na-na, na-na-na-na-na-na. See, we can't sing. We have to at least hum, or whatever that's called that I just did.
Well, I thought that you got the ch-ch in there really good.
Yeah.
I appreciated that.
That's why I wish people could see us, because I also did the punching of the
You did.
face, like in the very beginning montage, that Brandon pretends to punch Dylan in the face. It's my
Fun
fave.
kids.
That's
I
also
always-
when you're watching it on the streaming. That's also the part right where you catch it, where it says skip intro.
Yes.
So you always get to see that part,
always get
and
the
then
punch.
it skips the intro.
I always wonder in a show when there's an intro like that, I always wonder when it was filmed. Was it filmed like in the beginning? Like, did they do the pilot and then they filmed this tag or whatever? Or was it later? Like, did they know each other? Because like when the friends are like jumping around on the fountain, do they
Yeah.
already know each other? Are they already friends?
So the intro for season 1 of Beverly Hills 90210 is it's scene centric. So it's actually got
Yeah.
scenes from the show, and it has a lot of Beverly Hills scenery. So the very first season, that's kind of all of there. It's like very photogenic, and it shows like Rodeo Drive and all the things. And then and then they kind of switched it up after that and made it the cool little montage that it is for the seasons after.
We can see all of our friends. I always liked the sitcom openings where you get to see clips of episodes that you watched.
Yes.
That's my thing. But
Well, and I think that too, even in this one, it's like there were clips of the show that hadn't happened yet that are in the beginning montage. So you're like, wait a minute,
that hasn't happened.
that's telling the future.
Well, 90210. Sorry. Beverly Hills 90210.
Yes.
Because when I look it up, I type in 90210
Me
and they're
too.
like, it's a different thing.
Exactly. Makes me
cool.
mad. Forgot.
Well,
Yeah.
that's not fair.
I know.
So the premise of the show, which ran from 1990 to 2000. Okay, I'm looking at my notes because it says season 1 is 90 to 91, so that
Yeah.
shook me up. But we're just talking about season 1 today. Why are we only talking about season 1 today?
Because I love this show so very much. So much happens in this show. For those of you who listen to us all the time know that for Dallas, we had to go season by season because, one, Dallas is amazing. There's so much to talk about, I think, as each season goes along. And yeah, even like binging it though, I almost kind of like forget certain things, or when did that happen? Or was that this season? When that was 3 seasons ago? Oh, that was this season. So yeah.
It's important because it becomes a soap opera, but it's not yet. Mm-hmm. The premise of the show, Minnesota twins Brandon and Brenda Walsh move to Beverly Hills and struggle to Let me start over.
Don't struggle.
I'm struggling. Minnesota twins Brandon and Brenda Walsh move to Beverly Hills and struggle to fit into a wealthy, image-obsessed high school culture. Which, did they really struggle that hard?
I feel like they didn't, and they probably should have struggled more.
Right.
Because you know what we never really find out is, I mean, they talk about their upbringing in Minnesota like a little bit here and there, but they don't really say like, we went to a small school before this. We did, because then they come in, they're juniors. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, they fit right in. I mean, let's just, like, day one, Kelly doesn't want some other girl she doesn't like to sit with her at her science lab table. So she's like, I'm saving this. And then she goes, for her. And Brenda just happens to walk in the door. And Brenda looks at her like, me? And she's like, she waves her over. And then they're just instantly friends.
Yeah.
And I was like, she's
no struggle.
She's the new girl. And you didn't know who she was. And granted, it's a really big high school. So maybe you don't know people in your class in general.
Right.
But I was like, okay. And same with Brandon. Like, for the first day, though, he's, like, sitting by himself eating lunch. And Brenda walks by, I think, with Kelly, and they were like, yeah, you don't want to be a loser like that guy.
Like that hot guy right there.
Yeah, I was like, how funny. And Brenda's like, yeah, let's just keep going. And then, you know, so it was so funny. Because he also then just made friends right away.
Right. Like, okay, so they're personable, attractive, young teens, and they're so struggling in Beverly Hills.
And I'm kind of, okay, so I didn't realize this until like a little bit later in as I'm watching. And full disclosure, I kind of watched all of this and then going back and rewatching and going through kind of intently. Steve doesn't have any friends until Brandon comes along. And he actually makes mention of that in an episode, or you know, and is just kind of like, I just didn't fit in with anybody. And you know, Steve looks like he should be the captain of the football team,
right.
And he's like, him and Kelly had been dating, so like when the series starts, they've just broken up, and she, she's the prettiest girl in school, and he looks like he could be, the like I said, the football quarterback, and you're like, you didn't have any friends?
He knows people, though.
Yeah,
he knows people. Everybody, and he's very schmoozy. He probably made a lot of enemies. And then he tries to be friends with David because he thinks David's dad is a producer or something.
And that kind of starts out like in a weird thing, too, because David is trying to befriend Steve. And in the beginning, David and Scott are little, like, nerdy freshmen. And they come in, and then at a party, Steve had been, he'd been bothering Steve all week, and then Steve's drunk, and David has to drive him home because he's like, this is my friend. David's like, yay.
And now we're friends and buddies till the end.
Exactly. So it is kind of funny how it starts. So you're right. I feel like they didn't really not fit in. It was like, and they both already have the look. I mean, they're both like very attractive people, very popular style people.
I mean, if anybody's going to not fit in, it's going to be David and what's his girlfriend's name? Donna. What's wrong with me?
Well, and it's funny to me, too, because I never realized. I watched this when it was in the 90s. I watched this, but I probably watched like definitely the beginnings. And then I must have tapered off and not really watched towards the end. But I never watched it again. Like, I only watched it when it was on TV. So you forget a lot of things and you have preconceived notions, which I had a lot of. And I literally forgot that Kelly and Steve were even a couple. In the first half of the first season, Donna's pretty irrelevant.
Yeah.
She's kind of just Kelly's random sidekick that shows up, but they're playing up the Kelly-Brenda friendship. And David coming in as kind of a nerd, and he's a freshman. They're all juniors. So that's also kind of a weird, like it's like, oh, he's just the new guy. And then they're like, oh, this little nerdy guy, he's following us around.
I feel like they didn't know what they were going to do with any of the characters. And they didn't know what they were going to do with David and Scott. They were like, we're going to put them in as comic relief and they're going to be the nerdy guys.
Yeah.
But they got away from that then, which took an interesting turn.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was strange because it was like, David is nerdy and then, but yeah, ends up in almost all of the, scenes for sure. I mean, it was like they were definitely pushing him to be a main character. And so I always kind of wonder about that going into that, is what their plans were. But yeah, they all have their own different stories, but I could say the only reason about them not fitting in is because everybody else is really, really rich.
Yes.
They clearly have enough money. Their house is nice. The dad got a job in Beverly Hills. That's why they're there. And he's like an accountant. Or an money financial person.
He has a secretary.
It's kind of a little different as things go along.
Is he a lawyer?
No, it's financial, because in the beginning he's like in the office and they're like doing tax stuff. And even Cindy says that Cindy is their mom. Jim and Cindy are the Walsh parents. She says something about taxing, and then later he ends up taking on Dylan's trust. He's in charge of Dylan's trust.
That's why I thought he was a lawyer.
Yeah, it's more like financial stuff.
Okay. Let's go back to the premiere. Beverly Hills 90210 premiered on Thursday at 8 Central after The Simpsons, opposite Cheers
Oh, wow.
on NBC,
Okay.
and a show called Grand. And also on ABC was a show called Gabriel's Fire, which starred James Earl Jones and was on for 2 years. I've never heard of Grand or Gabriel's Fire. I'm sorry.
I haven't either, although when you say Grand, something sticks out in my brain. I'm going to have to look that up later, because that seems strange to me. But you're right, I've never heard of Gabriel's Fire.
No idea. So on CBS, there was a baseball game. It was Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. So if you and I, I'm 16 at this point. No, I'm 15. When did it air? Oh, it started on October 4th, 1990. So I was 15.
Yeah.
So you and I are going to go watch 90210 because we're still too young for Cheers.
Yeah.
We don't really care about Cheers. We'd watch it if it was on.
Yeah.
But we don't really care about it.
Right.
Maybe we were too old for The Simpsons. Maybe we watched it. Did you watch The Simpsons?
I never really watched The Simpsons anyway. So, yeah,
Okay.
I would have been down with this because I would have been 12 when this premiered. And I feel like but it would have been like, oh, high school kids,
Right.
this will be a great show. And I have to point out that you're technically the exact same age as the whole group, because they
Correct.
graduate from high school in 93.
Correct.
So that is...
Which is why I realize I never saw the later seasons, because I think I stopped watching it when I got out of high school. I graduated in 93 and we all graduated together, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So watching this now at 50 years old is so nostalgic for the 90s, and it reminds me not of who I was at that time, because this is like worlds away from who we are.
Yeah.
Because, I went to a Catholic school in Nebraska, and nothing like, we had, rich kids in our school who like kids who had like party houses and whatever, but we weren't part of any of that stuff. So this is light years away from my life, but I still have the memories of what it felt like to be a teenager in the 90s, and what things were brought at us and what things were discussed with us in the 90s being teenagers.
And I think in general, I feel like anytime we watch shows that were during the time we were growing up, there's like nostalgia there anyway, because we watched them back then, and you do remember at the time watching it, and kind of, so yeah, same.
And I definitely watched this when it was new, and I watched the reruns. So I probably saw every episode twice.
Okay.
It initially struggled in the ratings. It was not doing well, obviously across from Cheers.
Yeah.
And then they aired the finale episode, which got very high ratings. And then people were like, hey, maybe we should come back and watch this show in reruns. So the summer reruns actually boosted the ratings.
Oh, nice.
And turned the show into the hit that it was.
Love it.
It was not a thing. Like, we didn't have teen dramas like this.
Yeah.
At that time. We didn't have teen soap operas. And season 1 is so much an after-school special.
I literally have that exact thing written down. I was like, the season 1 is very after-school specially. I'm like, yep. It's very, the beginning of every sitcom, every drama, maybe not every drama, because some dramas are like drama. But they're very over-the-top cheesy sometimes, like with each other, like, that was really funny kind of thing.
Yeah.
The guys are very pronounced in their they're like handshakes and they're broing out kind of stuff. And they're very like, oh, it was so funny to me at times to watch. So yeah, it was. And each episode, I mean, I even wrote down too, because it was like Brandon's got a new girl in every episode. I was like, okay, so it's funny to me. That was very like, we've watched shows over the years when we've done shows, and it's like some character shows up in one episode and then you never hear from them again. And it's like a new kid at school, even in like Little House on the Prairie, some new kid comes to school. They have a whole episode about it. You never see that kid again.
Yep.
And that happened a lot with a lot of the ladies sometimes in this show. So yeah, it was
Brandon had so many ladies. They were like, okay, he's at the heartthrob, so we need to throw all the ladies at him.
Yeah.
Even his girlfriend came back from Minnesota, and he's like, yeah, this isn't going to work out, because she was flirting with Dylan, but then they were still friends. Because Dylan was also flirting with her. So.
Well, and it's funny because that's the other thing, Dylan kind of pops in after like a couple episodes, and at first he's all, mysterious and, what's up with that guy? But he's going to school. And it's funny, and I get it, all shows do this, because like later on in the series, it's like, no, we've all known Dylan since grade school, and it's kind of funny to me, but in the beginning they're like, oh, what's his deal,
Right.
And even both Kelly and Brenda, ironically, are like, oh yeah, I don't know about that guy. And then
but
all
then
of a sudden
later Kelly's like, I've been in love with him since I was like 10.
Exactly. And I'm just like, oh my God, it's hilarious. So yeah, him and same thing, like Steve and Brandon became friends pretty fast because of like class. And then Dylan just shows up in like their shop class, and he like defends, I think, a nerdy kid or something from some bully. And then Brandon's all like, oh yeah, man, that was cool. And then they're friends. And so it is kind of, and then I'm like thinking, okay, all these people went to school. And then of course Steve becomes friends with Dylan just because of Brandon. That's why it's weird that they moved there, but then all of a sudden they brought people together. Maybe that
And they're
was the point.
instantly popular. But also, Brandon is everyone's savior. Every single episode, he is everyone's savior. He saves everyone. He has the voice of reason even to his parents. I'm like, oh my God, Brandon,
and the
give it a
parents
rest.
are like, oh, if Brandon's there, everything will be okay.
Okay. Have you seen what Brandon's out doing?
And then all of a sudden it turns a little bit different in that way. But yeah, I do like too that it is kind of funny to me. Early on, Dylan calls Brandon Minnesota for quite a few episodes. And then they switch to both Dylan and Brandon calling each other Jones. And I just was like, so they each call each other that. And but it only lasts like half of a season, and then it goes away.
And they're like, this isn't working, guys.
I know, they're like, that didn't
We're
really
gonna
work
stop.
out so well.
I
So
don't
yeah,
know.
very funny.
Kelly I think, became my favorite character, which is weird because I always assumed that I didn't like Kelly. Like when I watched it,
Same.
right? Because she's stuck up and she's rich, but she's a very good person. I mean, except for the part where she steals Brenda's boyfriend, but she's a good person. She's just dealing with the life that's been handed to her, and she never judges Brenda. She like they go shopping and she's kind of like unaware of like, oh, Brenda can't just buy everything. But she never looks down on her for it. I mean, she is mean to that girl that she didn't sit with in the lab class.
But you're right. I thought the same exact thing. I went in with this preconceived notion of what I remembered about the series, which was very much wrong in several elements. And I thought the same thing. I'm like, oh, she's the prettiest girl. She's gonna, be a brat to everybody. And she became like my favorite person. And I really didn't expect that. And I thought, I mean, we'll get into that as we go down the line about like stealing of the boyfriend. And like, it's not the way it happened at all the way I thought it did. There's so many weird things about this that I didn't remember. And you're right. She was kind of forced to grow up. Her parents got divorced early. Her dad has been out of her life since she was little for the most part. And she's always been like searching for him and his approval and him to come visit her. And her mom has these drug and alcohol
her mom
issues. And that's kind of the main thing in the very beginning. I will say how it's funny when I went back and watched the first cut, and I know they do this all the time, but in like the pilot episode or the first couple episodes, everybody has a different parent
Yes.
besides the Walshes.
Yes.
Dylan's dad's different, Donna's mom, Kelly's mom. And then we get into the actual actors who play them throughout the rest of the series. But,
Well, Kelly's mom in season 1 and 2, Ann Gillespie, is a wild child, and she, she's drunk all over the place. She was 33 years
33.
old.
I wrote the same thing down.
33 years old.
Yes.
And I wrote 15 years older than Kelly.
Yes, I was like, Kelly's mom is a drunk and a cokehead. But the funny part is, that's only the first few episodes, and then she decides for Kelly's sake to like get clean, which is good. But yeah, and then Kelly was kind of like, well, I've seen this before. It kind of happens, and so.
Well, we see in the beginning of this series, specifically in episode 1, that all of these kids, they're showing us that all of these kids have a lot, and they're very rich, and some of them have famous parents, but they all have problems that stem from having all of their privilege.
Yeah.
Like Dylan's, living in a hotel by himself.
Yeah.
And,
but he's super like lonely. And,
right. And
yeah.
Steve, his... What was it? His mom's on...
The Hartley house.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, he gets roused for that so much. It reminds me of, the stories of, child actors who would go back to school, in Beverly Hills when they weren't working and get teased so bad because, you think you're special because you're on a TV show. And nobody in Beverly Hills thinks you're special because you're famous or doing something.
Because we all have famous parents or
all
whatever.
of us.
Which you could kind of tell. And that's the only way I'd say the Walshes maybe didn't fit into in the very beginning. Well, it's funny because the pilot, again, they have a tiny brown car, which made me think of my old Citation.
Aww.
And then it's a big brown car. So I was like, oh, okay. But, they've got a hand-me-down car that they share because Brenda's not even driving at that point. She doesn't want to drive. She can't pass the driver's test. And then it's just funny because of that. So they're sharing a car. In the very first episode, they're showing you too, everyone's pulling up in their convertibles and their BMWs, and there's valet parking at the high school.
Yes.
So
they're showing us how different it is from our lives.
Exactly.
I love it. And Brenda gets in with this shoplifting girl, Tiffany, who's also very rich. And there's no reason for her to be shoplifting. And, she pins it on Brenda. Tiffany is played by Noelle Parker, who you might remember from Ernest Saves Christmas. And also, we were just talking about this last week for no reason. Amy Fisher, My Story. It was there were 3 or 4 TV movies about Amy Fisher in the 90s.
Yes.
And she was in the best one.
Yeah. That's so funny. I know, she was super familiar, and I was like, oh, okay, this girl's interesting.
That's Amy Fisher.
But yeah, she's also, same thing. She's kind of doing it because she doesn't get her parents' attention.
Right.
So she ends up shoplifting, and then Brenda gets caught up in it, and it's...
No, we never see her again.
No. Again, very after school especially.
Yes. Every single episode had a moral to it. And Brendan saved
And
the
it's
day.
almost like they had to hit up on, and it happens of course throughout the whole series, which as we go through we'll talk about, but every kind of hot issue gets hit at some point throughout the 10 years for sure. There's a lot of stuff that it gets more intense as we go on further. So far we haven't pointed out one of the best characters in the show, the owner of the Peach Pit, because his name is Nat.
Nat.
And the Peach Pit is so cool, and it becomes a central part of you could clearly tell they didn't expect that to happen in the beginning, because they go there and then then Brandon ends up getting a job there as a server, because Brandon's the only one who has to work so he can pay for his car insurance.
Yes.
Because again, we mentioned everybody's rich, and then Brenda doesn't, she just gets driven around by everybody else.
But nobody's down on him about it.
No.
His friends aren't oh my God, you have to pay for your car insurance. They're all cool.
Yeah.
Everybody's cool.
And it was never oh, I got to go to work, and they're like, loser, because that's what you would do if you were rich and you were mean. But yeah, I
want to be friends with these people.
Exactly, me too.
I want them to drive me around and not make fun of me. And then Brenda decides that Kelly is better than her and Kelly is prettier than her and Dylan wants Kelly and they both want Dylan, and so she tries to dye her hair blonde, which is quite common in sitcoms. And they do it and it turns out orange.
Oh my God.
And she goes to school like that, and I was like, girl.
My favorite part about that was kind of when they were both just eyeing him and like, no, Dylan hadn't even met Brenda yet at that point, because then she's like jogging the next day or something, and she's got the big orange afro, whatever she's got going on. And he rides by like on his motorcycle, and then he's like, I got a guy who does hair. And then she goes with him, and then her hair's back to normal. And then all of a sudden,
fall out or anything.
Yeah. Then all of a sudden they're like, hey, now we're like kind of together. Because at first he's like, oh, you're Brandon's sister. She's like, yeah, I'm Brandon's sister. And it's very silly. And then at one point he's like working on the car and is showering in their random shower. And Brenda walks. I love how no one closes the doors. Like, it's your brother and sister. They share a bathroom. Yeah. And it's like the door's not closed. And now it's Dylan who's in the shower.
You know what? They don't do like the typical brother-sister bickering ever. They're so nice to each other. That's what I noticed. I mean, they do fight about other things.
Yeah.
But it's never like bickering.
No.
I noticed that in the beginning. I was like, why are they so nice to each other?
That's true.
It's weird.
And they're very like stand up for each other, hide things for each other, lie to the parents for each other. But yeah. And even come in and like, one of them would be sulking about something that happened, and the other one comes in and sits on the bed, and they have to talk about it. And so, yeah, they're very close, obviously.
I guess that's the way some people are.
Did you notice in the very beginning, I didn't notice this till I went back and rewatched it, but, well, there's an episode where Glenn Evans is an old friend of Cindy's, played by the guy who was John Carter on Little House on the Prairie, by the way. He comes in and it was like, you know, I think he introduced Jim and Cindy actually, but he was like in love with her. And now they're super flirtatious and she like kisses him and it's like this whole thing because Jim's at work all the time and there's like, they have to have the episode where she almost cheats. They have a patio in their bedroom. The Walshes do. The parents do. Because Jim comes home from work one night and she's out on this little patio off their bedroom. I was like, you never see it again. You literally never see that patio again. And then there's a time where Brenda is out on a patio, and you can't really tell because they'd go hang out in their parents' room sometime. And I was like, is that in her room? Because that also disappears. But anyway, I had to point that out because I was like, because it was a really cool patio too. And I was like, oh my God.
And they're like, what if we just put a patio here so she can stand on it?
Yeah.
Well, there was a couple of episodes right in the middle there that were very focused on the parents. And I was like, nobody cares.
Yeah.
I don't know why you're trying to bring people's parents into this.
Right.
Nobody cares.
The only thing I thought of after the fact, because I wrote down how, like, everybody else... Okay, so Donna's parents are together, but in season 1, they have, like, a thing, because she catches her mom having an affair. And I was like, okay... Are they going to do this? Are they going to, I mean, you could tell that they weren't because they were a prominent part of the cast. Everybody else, every other parent was a guest star. So Kelly's parents aren't together. Steve's parents aren't together. David's parents were in the beginning. And then there's the whole weird thing about them separating. And then later on that becomes a whole different thing. But, like no one's, so the Walshes are like the boring nuclear family. So I almost thought that episode with Cindy was going to be like, oh, look, they're trying to make them like everybody else.
Like
and then you're right.
else.
They were like, yeah, no one cares.
Well, maybe they were like, okay, they can't be a perfect couple. They have to have some problems. We have to show some strife. But seriously, nobody cares. This is not for the parents. Nobody's parents are watching this.
And they played a great role throughout as the parents. Like, they were really great. I liked both of them. But you're right. We don't need to know about your personal life unless you're just telling us that you two are going to a movie together so the kids can have a party.
Right,
or
exactly.
Something.
So we know where you are.
Yeah.
So one of those Brandon Saves the Day episodes, their maid or their housekeeper who she didn't speak English in the beginning and then it was like a whole confusion and whatever.
Yeah.
Her niece wants to go to West Beverly and so they're helping her.
Yeah.
like supply their address or whatever.
Yeah.
And of course, Brandon is like making out with her, and you know, and then we don't see her again. But at the end of that episode, David has been trying to get a hold of MC Hammer. And then he calls, and this woman answers the phone, and he's like, MC Hammer, and it's Debbie Gibson. And she's like, no, you got the wrong number, man, and whatever. And so he hangs up, and he's like, oh, and he's like, oh, wait, I'll call Debbie Gibson. And then calls the same number, and he's like, Debbie Gibson, I know, whatever. That was a cute little cameo.
That was.
And it was a couple years after Debbie Gibson's popularity.
Yeah. It was just so surprising to be in there, too.
Random.
When I saw it, I was like, oh, my God, what's happening? Yeah, there was an episode, too, since we were talking about the Walshes. There is an episode where they go out of town, and the kids all have a big party, and the Walshes run into some swingers, which is funny. But that's kind of where Brandon comes down a few pegs, because Brandon gets drunk.
Yeah. Yep, he does.
And drives and gets into an accident. So, and then of course the parents have to come back from their thing, but kind of still very after school, especially. And Dylan then takes Brandon to AA, which means Dylan's been to AA. So,
of course he has. All of these kids have been through a lot of adult
They've
stuff.
all been through some crazy. But the theme too with Brandon also having, of course, lots of girlfriends. He dates a girl with a baby, who was the pizza delivery girl on Friends, by the way. And again, she disappears. Like he's ready to be like in a relationship with this woman, help raise her baby. And then all of a sudden she just leaves also.
They're like, next episode.
They're like, done.
Next girl. It's like Simon and Simon. They're all just like legs and
exactly
not much personality, and then they're gone.
And then they're like, all right, over.
It's true.
Too funny.
Another guest star that we see is Matthew Perry as the tennis star who's like wrote a play about his dad and like murdering his dad. Brandon, the savior, is like, I think he's seriously gonna murder his dad.
Yeah. And then has all like these visions of it happening and all that kind of stuff, which also was interesting there. Okay, and I don't know if you caught this, but there was a part on there where he's rich and famous, or he's going to be like a famous tennis star or something, whatever it was.
His dad is like pushing him or whatever.
And Brenda's talking to Kelly, and she goes like, oh yeah, do you know whatever his name is? I'll just call him Matthew Perry. It's not his name on the show, but
it's Roger.
Sorry. Roger. That's right. And Kelly's like, oh yeah, I know Roger. Oh, you like know him? And I was like,
Kelly.
Okay. Which, was just funny because, and we could talk about that part too with Kelly and her reputation and why that is. Early on, Maxwell Caulfield was on. I mean, there was a lot of good guest stars that were.
There were. Like Color Me Bad.
Well, yes.
Is that this season?
So.
It is, right?
It is. But I have to tell you this. So, okay. So, full disclosure, I watched the entire series, and now I'm going back and watching season by season before we talk about it, because apparently I just can't get enough, which is true, because as soon as I finish any series we watch, then I miss everybody. So I never got to see that the first time through, because for all of you that have streaming services, that episode wasn't on and I just thought I thought I was going in order, and I never saw it. So that's the very end.
Why can't I find it? Where is it?
You know what? I think we're jumping into season 2.
That's season 2.
Sorry, we were just kidding. That didn't happen. Erase all that.
Cut all that out. No, Color Me Bad. So let's talk about other guest stars.
Well, I was going to... Yeah. So I thought it was funny. Maxwell Caulfield's in the beginning, and he's like a 26-year-old like lawyer. And Brenda basically... Well, they tried to get into a bar with fake IDs, which, by the way, they just took a pencil to the IDs to do it.
You can do that.
So Brenda's is from Minnesota, so she gets in.
Right.
And then the other girls just leave her because they don't get in. So they seriously leave her. And so then she's in there and she meets this guy, and then she tells him she's in college and whatever else. And then like he invites her back to his place, and then she has to tell him the truth, and then he's mad. He's like, I'm going to sue your parents. The whole thing is so weird. I was like, oh my God.
Oh, it's another memory of the 90s. Like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
If you had an out-of-state license, nobody at the door was going to question that license because they haven't probably seen it.
Yeah.
A million times.
Yeah, had no idea, and was just kind of like,
Oh, that's
Yeah,
hilarious.
it was when Kelly took a pencil to it though, I was literally like, what is happening?
Well, were they laminated? I don't even remember.
I don't think so. Now I can't remember.
I didn't
either,
have a
but
driver's
yeah.
license in 1990, so I don't know. Or 1991.
Oh, it was so funny. It was so funny.
Sorry. So the Matthew Perry episode, which is called April is the Cruelest Month, which is
Yeah.
also a name of a Monkees episode with Julie Newmar, but it's also like the line of a famous play or something like that.
Yeah.
I had it written down somewhere. I don't know where I put it. That's when we learn that Donna has a learning disability.
Oh, that's right. Because earlier on she wasn't even really like I said, she wasn't as prominent prior to that, although they have all these different things that have been going on. And she was like had all this anxiety, and then it's like she can't take tests.
Yeah,
the
she
right
thought
way.
she wasn't going to be able to go to college. By the way, Tori Spelling, not surprisingly, is the only cast member who was in every single episode. I mean, if your dad works there,
Yeah.
it makes sense.
Which is funny because in the beginning you really don't kind of notice her, but it is funny to me that when I went back to rewatch this, there'd be like random episodes where like Kelly just wasn't in it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even, now I can't remember what it was, but I'm like, oh, and for sure Dylan, like he sometimes would kind of just go do his own thing, or sometimes they'd be, oh, he went to go down to Baja to surf or whatever. There was like a lot of heavy stuff too with different things. I will say this. We've talked about this before, I think, with other shows, that if something seemed, it doesn't even have to be overly traumatic, but I would remember specific scenes. I think we talked about when we talked about like Little House on the Prairie when Mary goes blind. For my whole life, I've remembered that moment of that show. For me, this one was the girls do a self-breast exam in
Yes.
Kelly's bedroom. And they're all, Kelly, Donna, and Brenda are doing it. And they're like, okay, ladies, do this, this, and this. All clear? All clear. And then they do whatever. So they're towards the end, and they're feeling, and Brenda's face looks weird. And then Kelly's like, all clear? And Donna's like, all clear. And then they're like, Brenda? And she's like, all clear. And you can tell she's not all clear. So the whole episode is about she finds something, has to have it removed. Everything turns out, of course, it's benign. But I specifically remember that episode, having only seen it the one time.
And she isn't that the one where she's like imagining herself in a coffin. And,
Yes.
Yeah, she's like,
Oh, because they're supposed to they're taking finals, I think, too. And so she's got to go. They can only get her in like that Friday. And they're like, it's finals. They're like, well, I'm sure they'll let you. So she keeps picturing herself like in a really shaded room. And she's going up to each of the characters. And the multiple choice answers are like, what, if Brenda dies, what clothes of hers should I get? And then it go, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And there's always something that could be nice to Brenda. And you don't know what the person picks, but Brenda looks at the sheet of paper and he's like, oh, Kelly. She gets all mad. So yeah, she's picturing that she won't be there.
That was a very memorable episode that a lot of people talk about to this day, along with from other seasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a very impactful one. And that is one of those things that in the beginning I was like, oh, these are the things that we cared about. And, these are the things that we were told about when we were in high school, because like they were doing the test from a magazine.
Yeah.
And we used to read like YM Magazine or Cosmo or whatever. And they always had those in there. And we would sit around reading magazines together in, each other's rooms. And that's what you do. And it was so nice. Like,
I know.
the way that we all used to hang out.
Innocent back in the day. We weren't all on our
Right?
phones and scrolling. And it's funny because I was going to say that too when you said it was what we used to do. They can call it, it's not a sleepover. It's not a sleepover. But the girls are all going to spend the night at Brenda's house. And then Kelly wants to invite this other girl that she had been friends with who turns into a... but it's not a sleepover. It's not a sleepover. It can't be a sleepover. We're not 12. So they play the truth game, which is horrible because this woman who's there, who no one knows, wants to play this. And it's just like you're telling your deepest secrets. And it was like weirdly uncomfortable, but that's kind of also how you find out, like Kelly talks about how her first time was a forced encounter. And it's super emotional and she's really upset about it. And it's basically how she got a reputation.
Yeah.
that she's easy. So it's super sad. And then that's kind of probably when I was like, now I love her and I feel bad for her and, her whole story or whatever. And I did a thing, it was ironic too, that at that time she admitted to Brenda that when she started dating Dylan, Kelly tried to get a date with him. And so then they're fighting about it. And then later she's like, she promises she'll never try to steal him.
Oh, okay.
I was like,
Okay.
noted.
Yeah. But are we going to keep being friends forever? Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. It's lovely. We talk about teen pregnancy. We talk about condoms. We talk about Matthew Perry trying to shoot his dad, stress of school, SATs, learning disabilities. It is after school especially.
Yeah.
And
even at their little spring dance, Steve kind of has a meltdown because it's his birthday and no one remembered. And then we find out that he tells he just found out when he was 16 that he's adopted. And Kelly's the only person who knows. And then he tells Brandon. And then it's kind of like then Kelly comes down and then he's mean to her, of course, because he loves her. And even though they're broken up. And it's funny to me, and we're just talking about season 1 now, but I forgot how much they kind of still acted like a couple through those first couple seasons. But she, you could tell they were probably like each other's first love, whatever. And were able to stay friends and again forever, but they were kind of so cute in the way that they still cared about each other, I guess, and that she's like, oh, that's oh, did he tell you, kind of thing, to Brandon, like, oh, I'm gonna bring you in on it because you're like his best friend now, so we can share this and be there for him. And yeah, it's super, super interesting. And the night of the spring dance is also the night that Brenda and Dylan get a hotel room.
oh my goodness.
And get together for the first time.
Do the thing.
Yes.
This is also where I think that I thought that Brandon and Kelly were a couple through the whole show. Like, having not watched it for 30 years, I was like, oh yeah, they were a couple, and Brenda and Dylan were a couple. No.
I couldn't, you're right, I couldn't remember, but then throughout little bouts of it, when I watched it through the first time, I was like, wait a minute, I thought those two were a couple. Wait, I thought this happened. Wait, I thought,
did
and then I
kiss.
had to wait for things to happen. And another one, at the very end of season 1, the Walshes are supposed to move back to Minnesota. And it's like this big thing because Jim gets a job and it's like double his salary and they can't turn it down. And everybody's mad. Steve's like taking it out on Brandon. Like he's basically being mad. Like, you can't leave me. We're like besties. The strange part about that is Andrea, who we haven't talked about really that much, is she offers herself up to Brandon. She's in love with Brandon from the very beginning. So, by the way, Andrea, for the first 5 episodes, then she's Andrea because she thinks it sounds better, I think. They work on the paper together. And Andrea is another one who is, kind of in the beginning a couple times, Kelly is just like, oh, you're talking about Andrea Zuckerman. So she's kind of a little on the outside. And you can tell they're just like, she must be a nerd in the beginning anyway. So there's a few times because, there's even a time she asks Brandon to go somewhere. And then she runs off and somebody's like, did Andrea Zuckerman just ask you on a date? So they're kind of talking about her like she's a nerd and she doesn't belong with us. And yet Brandon's always liked her like as a friend.
Right.
And she's chief because she's kind of in charge of the paper. And she calls him Ace all the time. It's kind of cute. But she's hopelessly head over heels for Brandon.
She goes back and forth being mean to him and loving him. And
she's
she's very bitter about it.
One of my favorite parts was, so for the spring dance, Kelly is like a princess, so she ends up getting crown princess, so she's nominated. So she asks Brandon to go with her. He wasn't even go because Brandon doesn't dance, by the way, like literally doesn't dance. Didn't want to go to the dance. Andrea and him were going to go watch a movie that night. Well, Kelly asks Brandon, you have to go with me. I'm the princess. I have to have somebody popular and good looking to be my date. So he does. Andrea's crushed. At first she doesn't go. That's the night where Brandon's like, no, you're like another sister to me, to Kelly.
Oh my God.
Which also, foreshadowing, is hilarious. Andrea's at home watching like a movie She got a horror movie where she shows up at the dance with a chainsaw, and it's hilarious. It is like going after everybody, and then she ends up putting a dress on and showing up there, and everybody has a good time. So yeah,
I'm here
super, super funny.
I don't know. Andrea, in the beginning, in this season, I don't think any of us were fooled that she was a high school student because Gabrielle Contreras, I say, she was born in 1961.
Yeah.
She is the oldest of the teenagers in the show, and nobody was fooled. And I related to her, because she was like studious. Not that I'm studious. But, she was trying to fit in, or not so much fit in with these people, but she was in love with Brandon, and she, just wanted to be at the best school and do what she wanted to do. And she didn't even live there, which I think we find out later. Did we find out in this season?
We find out in season 1 because Brandon follows her home and
yeah.
whatever finds it. She doesn't live in the district. She uses her grandma's address so she can go because the school, because West Beverly is like one of the best high schools, so she can get into a good college. That's all she really cares about. She's very studious. I want to get into the best college. I want to go. She wants to go to like Harvard.
And
or
she thinks they're all like superficial and whatever, but that's not her goal anyway. And we've got Brandon there to be her savior. And I feel like they were going to continue on with it being very after school special. And he, we would see more of that, butting heads with Andrea and the fancy people. But I think they later in the show were like, maybe we should all make them all friends.
Make it all, yeah. And she comes to the night, when the girls, the not sleepover, they let her come. And Brenda's always been nice to her. She's very much like, she's
mean
friends
to
with
Andrea.
my brother. Yeah. Just the whole weird, like, oh, did she ask you on a date? Or, oh, she's coming. There's like a little bit of that, but it's very minor. It's very like, you almost wouldn't probably if I hadn't gone back and watched it, I don't know if I would have caught all of in the beginning that they were, especially once you watch it through, you're like, oh, well, of course, everybody's besties. The season finale, basically, when the Walshes are supposed to move back and end up not moving because they come to their surprise going away party at the Peach Pit. And then the Walshes hear everybody and how they talk about Brenda and Brandon. And then Jim's like, well, never mind. We're not going to go.
Right.
I'm just going to turn down probably $100,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious.
To live as rich people in Minneapolis.
Exactly. I was like, this is super funny. And I will say that the last part of the season finale of season 1, Brenda tells Dylan that she's late.
Yep.
And that's how they end it.
Yes. And so now everybody is like, wait, what? Now we've got to watch the whole season again. And then we're obsessed with it. And so when they come back, they actually come back in July, I believe, for season 2.
Oh, probably.
Instead of the regular time.
Yeah.
They come back in the summer. And so, it was a hit. And all of a sudden, this is the thing. And it was a big deal. Like, everybody watched 90210.
Oh,
everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Even me.
I mean, I was in love with Luke Perry at that age. I remember I had a poster, I remember, of Luke Perry on my wall, just back in the day, for anybody young listening to us. That's what we did. We papered our walls with all the magazines and stuff. I loved Luke Perry. Absolutely. So he was the one, I wasn't a Brandon. And, I mean, you would think in hindsight I should have been more towards Steve because he's 6 feet tall at least. The rest of them are very short.
I think I went through a very brief Steve phase at some point, which is weird because none of these guys are my type. Maybe or Dylan would have been my type at that time, but I wasn't really into him. I kind of was like, maybe I should be into Brandon, but I never really had a thing for any of them. Like,
and it seemed almost like once it was just like how cute he was, and then he was in the magazines even because I don't even know that I knew Dylan was like the bad boy style back then. It was just I thought he was cute, so I'm like, oh, okay. Luke Perry, how you doing?
I mean, this was the thing. We didn't have a lot of options at that time. Like, I was watching 90210 and the Mickey Mouse Club. So, like, we had sitcoms, and this was the first ever teen soap opera. And it was, I don't know, it just like blew us away, and it made for new TV, because then, you know, I don't know when Baywatch came out, but like I feel like in the summer we would watch like 90210 and then Baywatch for some reason, because Baywatch was on like really late.
We watched Baywatch really late, and it almost felt like, well, maybe you're right. Maybe it was summer, because I don't know why I felt like it was on Sunday nights or something.
It was like Saturday nights or something, but I don't think that was the original run.
Oh.
I'm like mashing all of these things together in that time, for that time period right there. Was this.
Yeah, it was a good thing to come along during that time, because you're right. Like nothing. It was just very relatable, and since we are about the same age as all of them, and
and they were actually talking about issues in not a sitcom way. Like we weren't talking about teen drinking where the main character doesn't do it.
Yeah.
And they're like, but I didn't, Uncle Jesse.
Yeah.
This was actually like Brandon gets drunk and smashes a car.
Yeah.
Because he's not perfect.
And everybody goes through something where you find out, like everybody in the show ends up making mistakes and having issues and stuff. And it's very, season 1 is kind of like gets tied up in a little bit of a bow. And there was, like you said, we got the Brandon drunk driving thing. It's just interesting because, as we go along through the rest of it, when we talk about it, it'll be interesting how everybody develops and how the different characters develop their own storylines and how everything kind of goes together, and just watching it. Even like this whole season, like David's actually obsessed with Kelly. Which is hilarious. And I mean, he's just like, I think that's why he befriends Steve in the first place, because he sees him talking to her. And he's just like, oh my God, gets her to dance at the spring dance, because it was like, oh, David's a great dancer, which also the way he dances cracks me up. I know that was the thing at the time, but the weird swinging of his arms at the dance. But he's the best dancer. And he's like, oh yeah, then we'll get to dance with whoever gets king and queen or whatever. And then he's always got a video. He's always got a video camera going around. So he is the typical freshman nerd. But yeah, he's a little obsessed with Kelly the whole first year. So
which
becomes not only it actually becomes funny because having watched it through, you're like, oh God, that doesn't even seem. It's like 100 years ago that happened. So
season 1 is definitely very different, and I do remember parts of it. Like very specific, like you said, very specific events that happened that I remembered.
Yeah.
Like I knew that, I remembered that Ian Zarig, what is his name? Steve. I knew that Steve was an orphan, but I didn't know how I knew, or not an orphan, sorry. I knew that Steve was adopted, but I didn't know how I knew it. And then I watched the episode and I'm like, oh, that's right.
Yeah.
This is where he tells us that he was adopted and he's upset about it. And just those things that I didn't remember that I remembered.
Yes.
It was a good time.
I love getting to watch something that I know I've watched but still being surprised.
Yes.
Because I couldn't remember. So I was like, oh, good. I like it when it's like you're so obsessed because you watched it, you loved it, and then you get to watch it all over again kind of for the first time.
And it's so much more of a crazy aha moment because it's not like, oh, that surprised me. It's, oh, I totally remember that. And it surprises me that I remember that.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, that's right.
Oh, I forgot. Forgot about that guy who was there for a minute.
And then gone.
All right. Well, this has been season 1 of Beverly Hills 90210. And we're going to continue to watch each season and talk about each season like we did with Dallas. And if you like Dallas, you can go back and listen to all of our Dallas episodes.
Exactly.
Because we did those season by season. And there's a lot to get through. So in a couple of weeks, we're going to come back and discuss season 2 of 90210.
Don't forget the cliffhanger. Brenda's late.
Oh, that's right. Brenda's late. So what's going to happen? Because we've been talking about all of these things and accountability. Okay, well, let's wrap this up.
All right. Wrap it up.
Clink.
Clink.